I really, really hate the smell of the forest. It reminds me of the fight where my limbs were bitten off and I nearly got my whole team killed.
That, and there's just so many things to sense.
I've trained myself extensively to be able to pick out and identify dangerous scents and sounds, so it's not overwhelming, but it's certainly a lot. And now with Vita gone, I feel obligated to be the one directing everybody to safety, which is a surprisingly difficult task even when we're just holding position in a shallow part of the forest.
Excoriyo, I call out. Hey, there's something big heading this way from starboard.
I would have asked Manus, but he's out intercepting something on the opposite side, and
we will go.
Excoriyo cuts me off, turning to walk towards where I'm pointing.
You will follow us?
Yes, Mom, I acknowledge, hurrying after. The clearing we're all huddled in, if you can call it a clearing, really, considering how many parts of it are blocked by trees, contains the whole collection of convicts and workers that followed Vita, mostly out of a fear of not making it to a town on their own. Considering that she just randomly left and we don't know how long it will be until she comes back, the handful of folks that know how to build shelters have been directing others to do exactly that. Thus, the start of a pretty large camp is slowly getting erected in the middle of human hostile territory. You have been proactive about scouting threats, Yelisaveta, Excoriyo continues.
Thank you.
But we find ourselves somewhat disturbed. Vita and her revenants each indicated we would be relatively safe here.
And we were, until quite recently. What changed?
Being a big group is attracting a lot of attention, I answer. Larger apex monsters that would normally avoid this part of the forest due to relative food scarcity are sensing us and roaming this way.
And
I'm like 90% sure Vita just being around was scaring them off before. Excoriyo smirks with satisfaction.
The forest knows its ruler.
Good. We are ignorant about forest traversal, we admit. How much trouble is this camp in? I hedge, making a so-so gesture. I'd turn a normal Templar squad away and try to lose threats like this rather than fight them, but it's nothing you, Manus, and Tommy can't handle. Vita's dregs just kind of slow them down, usually by getting eaten, but that's actually pretty helpful, so whatever. I have Jeremiah with Manus because he can revive the monsters Manus kills on our side, but well, you and Tommy fuck up the corpses too much for that to be as effective. Who is Tommy? Excoriyo asks. I blink. Oh, he's the revenant with the powerful cold-based thermomancy talent?
The one that fought alongside Captain Manus.
Excoriyo nods.
His name is actually Ice Guy now.
I scrunch my eyebrows.
Vita, what the fuck?
That's a bit dehumanizing, I comment.
You may have noticed with those particularly keen senses of yours, Yelisaveta, but he is no longer human.
We think it is an appropriate title, and he is pleased with being given a new name by his master.
Is that the beast?
We think we see it. Excoriyo glances at a mead-sized herbivorous snake that has been entirely minding its own business, and suddenly it balloons into a mass of horrifying mutant tumors. I hear its heartbeat strain and end moments later.
No, that
wasn't it, I clarify, trying not to wince. Poor thing. You should see it coming through the trees up ahead in about 30 seconds or so. Actually,
I've been meaning to ask.
Victoria said you sometimes used your talent at random back at the prison, and no, Excoriyo corrects. We have full control of our talent. I was using it on purpose, trying to test ways around the collar. Sano and Nyx never cared to, but that's how I spent my time. I suck on the inside of my lip.
So,
you were trying to kill whoever walked in through the door? I ask hesitantly. Our talent does far more than kill, Yelisaveta, Excoriyo answers.
If that was supposed to be a denial, it didn't sound like one.
She snorts, shaking her head slightly. We were in prison for 12 years, Inquisitor. Our own child forgot us in that time. She gives me a side-eyed glower. I rather wish you had all been killed sooner. Wouldn't you, in our position?
I don't have an answer to that, but I do at least have a good distraction.
36 seconds after my call-out, damn, I'm off my game. A massive limb bursts through the trees, pulling behind it a thin, gangly body with 5 other horrifyingly long arms. The beast's legs are all tipped with hairy, almost humanoid hands, with 3 joints in each arm. Every one of them is over 4 times longer than the main body itself, which is almost entirely a giant,
gaping mouth. The spider walk snatcher, as it's called, barely gets a chance to terrify every onlooker before Excorio gruesomely murders it with a look, a satisfied grin splitting her face all the while. "We did not taint the meat," she comments idly. "Though we do remove almost all the marbling in the process. Still, we could have some people butcher that for supplies." I think we're good for now," I respond diplomatically. "Actually, while I've got you here, I was kinda wondering if I could ask you some personal things. If that's alright." The lumpy, twisted-tooth woman turns my way, a piercing glare in her eyes. I think I'm the only person that I've seen hold her stare without, staring at how odd she looks. I wonder what she thinks of that, though it would probably be rude to point that out, so I don't intend to ask. Perhaps, Excorio nods. "You're certainly welcome to ask, but we may not answer. However, we are also hoping to ask a few things. And you will answer." "Yay, more threats." I just shrug and nod, though. It's not like I have anything to hide. "Go for it. What is your plan, here?" she asks. "We see you've been establishing yourself as a point of command, directing Vita's forces as if they were your own. What opening are you trying to create?" I scowl slightly, a bit surprised by the question but quickly seeing the logic behind it. "I'm not really the planning type," I admit honestly. "I just wing it, generally. I help whoever's in front of me. Right now, that's everyone here. You included. I'm directing people because I can tell where the threats are coming from before anyone else, and I don't want those threats to hurt anyone. That's it." Excorio considers. "We lack Vita's ability to sniff out falsehoods, so consider me still suspicious." "We, then me. That's got to be purposeful, but I can only guess as to what it implies right now. If I had some kind of master escape plan or whatever, don't you think Vita would have noticed me plotting it before she left?" I counter. Excorio's expression is difficult to read with how different her face is, but I still see the subtle tightening and unfocusing of her eyes that indicates she's considering it. Her muscles, tense under the bulbous growths on her skin, relax ever so slightly. Subconsciously, I've been judged as less of a threat. Which is good, because I'm really not one. Anyway, if it's okay to ask, I transition awkwardly. "I was curious about your whole situation." Sorry, I really have no idea how to address this politely. You're more than one person, right?" She chuckles. It's a rhetorical question, but I just don't know how else to start the subject change. "Oh, is that all?" "Yes, we are. In some ways we also aren't, but generally speaking we are and prefer to be referred to as separate." "Great, cool," I nod. "So how does that work? When I'm talking to you, for example, is Nyx listening? And would it be rude to address her?" Excorio shrugs. "She is aware, yes. We are all always aware, but only one of us moves the vessel at a time. And to answer your question, well, you are standing near three people. It is generally rude to talk to one only if you act as though the others are not there, wouldn't you say?" I raise my eyebrows. "Oh, shit, I have been being rude. Sorry, Nyx. Sorry, Sano. Hello to you both. I haven't met you, Sano, but gosh, I feel awful. Is it okay if I meet Sano? Like, talk to her? Is that a thing I can ask?" Excorio smiles, but it's thin and tense. "You are more than welcome to ask. Never expect or demand. For now, the vessel remains mine." I hesitate, not sure if it's wise to press that point. I decide to do it anyway. "Didn't Vita do that?" I ask. "Make a demand, I mean. Back at the prison. She put Excorio in charge. I remember that. She shoved her tentacles into this woman and squeezed her soul until she obeyed." Again, Excorio gets more tense, more stressed. I think I can see, with soul sight, the aspects of Nyx and Sano clawing at her ever so slightly. "She did," Excorio agrees. "And I forgive her, because she is ignorant in her forgetfulness, and because her joy is our purpose." She hisses the last three words, and I get the impression she's not just speaking to me. And I notice, then, that perhaps I have an opportunity here after all. I didn't lie to her. I don't have any kind of plan to harm Vita or escape here or whatever. But I'm good at winging it, and I see the obvious opening. If Sano or Nyx is willing to use their talent to help us escape rather than hold us in, we have a chance. We can break through the undead, survive the forest, and bring word to the Templars. But to do that, I would need to emotionally manipulate Ultrix into turning against herself, and I literally can't imagine how much that would suck for her. Unless I'm misreading her, and to be fair, I totally could be. I've only seen Excorio since the prison. I don't know if that's normal or not, but I do know she's been getting progressively more stressed. There's got to be a better way forward than exacerbating that, and in the absence of immediate danger I'm willing to bet on it. Do you want to talk about it? I ask. We have already talked about this, Excorio snaps. Extensively. Sure, and that's good. But sometimes it can help to have a third. I mean, a fourth party to explain things to and bounce ideas off of? She scowls at me. It's frustrating how I can't tell if you're being genuine or not. I think you can tell, I posit. You're just accurately reading me as completely genuine, and that makes you suspicious. Excorio snorts. It is. Very strange. Yeah, I agree. I get that a lot. We should start walking this way, another hungry one is coming. She doesn't say anything but she does follow, and the lull in conversation means my mind has nothing to focus on beyond my hyperactive senses. The mix of dead and living leaves, a fresh rotting plant smell puffing through the scent of hard-working sweaty bodies. It's putrid, arguably in a way I'm used to, but my senses never quite pick up the same things twice. There's always a new subtlety, a point of intense oddity that pounds at my conscious mind and demands attention. What I want to do is focus on the sights and sounds right next to me, the quickening of Ultrix's heart rate, the tense subvocalizations she's unconsciously making as she presumably speaks with the other people that are part of her. Unfortunately, the forest is just too distracting. Oh, well. She can tell me what's going on if and when she's ready. One more horrifyingly bloated forest monster later, Excorio turns to scowl at me. You're getting your wish, we suppose, she grumbles. Sano has agreed not to assist the escape of the prisoners if I release control of the vessel. It takes me a second to realize by prisoners she means the Templars, not the actual former prisoners. Okay, I say. I wasn't really trying to fish for a conversation with Sano. We know, she cuts me off. We want this. Okay, I nod. Well, let me know when I'm talking to Sano, then. It will happen when it happens, Excorio grunts. Keeping the vessel is much easier than giving it up on purpose. Oh, sure, I allow, having absolutely no context for that. Well, I hope I can help. Ultrix is silent after that, and for the next half hour or so we continue to thin out aggressive threats until they finally slow down, apparently recognizing we're not the free meat we seem to be. A subtle change passes over Ultrix during that time, and I'm not quite sure when exactly I'm walking alongside someone else, but by the time she speaks it's been long since obvious. Hello to you too, Inquisitor, she deadpans. Oh, are you Sano, then? I ask. It's nice to meet you. One thing that always struck me about Excorio is how she has a very posh, almost noble-like inflection and bearing. Sano doesn't seem to match that, walking with a slight slouch and speaking with such little inflection. She reminds me of Vita herself. We'd say the same, but we've known you for a while now, Sano grunts. You mind if we head through the middle? I click my tongue once to double-check we're clear on incoming threats, then nod. Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. We head away from the zombie army circle that marks the outside of the protected zone, towards the camp. Well, the camps, I should say. There's an obvious divide between former prisoners and non-former prisoners, but thankfully the peace Vita forcibly established hasn't yet atrophied in her absence. That said, the prisoners are making temporary shelters mainly through undead labor and either refusing to share it or being refused by the others. The serving staff and bound Templars aren't doing a bad job of setting up their own makeshift tents, though. What surprises me, however, is how Sano immediately starts glancing around rapidly, as if trying to taking every detail in as little time as possible. I wonder what she's doing at first, but then I follow her gaze and watch as a minuscule cut heals and vanishes as she glances at it. Oh, wow, I say. That's actually super impressive. Our names all have a meaning, you know, Sano says. Apparently, The artist thought it was funny to name the people he made like things. Just nouns and verbs, from some ancient language. My name just means heel. I was very literally made for this. Oh, I answer awkwardly. Sorry, is that a sore subject? Can be, Sano grunts. We don't take pride in it. It's something we're good at because we were ripped apart and put back together until we were good at it. That's all. But Excorio. She embraces it. She likes being the single-minded bitch that does what she's told. A slight increase in the pungency of her sweat indicates how stressed she gets from saying so. I imagine it's pretty terrible to be angry at part of yourself like that, I supply. You don't know anything about it, Sano snaps. Well, you're completely right, I agree. I suppose that's why I have to imagine. But I can tell that you're having a hard time. I don't know what it's like to share a soul with two other people, but you're still people. I can understand that. She sighs through her nose, making her way towards the former staff side of the camp, where the Templars are also staying. We don't really have the luxury of staying mad at each other, Sano says eventually. That's not how we work. None of us can be comfortable if one of us is suffering. But Excorio is so damn busy shoving her nose up our own kid's ass that she doesn't care about how much of a watcher damned asshole Vita has become. For shit's sake, Vita can sense emotions and we haven't even gotten a basic apology for being soul-fucked into compliance. Do you have any idea how violating that was? We changed that fucking bitch's diapers and they aren't even trying to talk to us. We should lean them over our knee and spank them like they're 4 years old again. Hey, well, that's something we have in common at least, I comment, having no idea how else to navigate that absolute minefield of a rant. I changed Vita's diapers too. Well, kind of. She didn't have diapers at the time, she just shit her pants. Huh. Really? Sano smirks. In the prison, you mean? Yeah, she would just randomly fall into a coma sometimes, I explain. Sometimes for days at a time. So we had to clean her up. Sano's face falls. Oh. That's. We didn't know that. Are they okay? As far as I know, yeah, I reassure her. The problem doesn't seem to be physical, and I think she was doing it on purpose. She huffs in annoyance. See, that's exactly the kind of shit we want to know. But no, Excorio just sits back and never initiates anything. Just lets the kid walk all over us. We just ask. The staff gives Altrix fearful looks as we walk among them, heading towards where the 3 collared Templars are doing their best to help despite having their hands bound behind their backs. Victoria nods at me as we approach, though she sends Sano a nervous look. Don't give us that, Sano grumbles at her. We swapped. And Excorio wouldn't actually hurt you. Victoria's eyebrows raise. Oh. Sorry. Sano, right? Yeah, Sano confirms. Right again. You doing okay, Victoria? I'm alive, I guess, she answers, nodding. Thank you. Hey, Jaleesa. Are things going okay? We're safe for now, and attacks are dying down, I confirm. No idea where the Queen of the Dead is, though. Victoria tenses. Jaleesa, you can't call her that, she insists. I raise a placating hand. It was ironic, Vicky. Sorry. She relaxes, nodding. She and the other 2 Templars have understandably been on edge this entire. Let's call it an excursion. Sano, Victoria suddenly pleads, turning to her. Can you help us get out of here? Yes, Sano grunts. But we are not going to. Sano, Vita is going to kill us, Victoria insists. We'll stop her, I promise. You can't fucking stop her. Victoria snaps. No one here can. If she decides to go for it, we're completely dead and you know it. Of course I know it. I was there. I watched my comrades drop dead like discarded trash, their hearts beating once before hitting the ground and then never again. I felt their bodies stop, I watched their souls get pulled away, I stood helplessly and did fucking nothing when it all happened. And if not for the fact that I start every morning being just as helpless in my own skin, I might have gone mad. I'm just worried an escape attempt will make her more likely to kill you, Vicky, I say simply. I can talk to her. She's powerful but she's still a person. I'm getting through to her. And then what? Victoria counters. You think she's going to remove our collars and give us weapons? Do you think she's going to send us a fucking zombie escort all the way to Skyhope? No. We'll have to stay her prisoners or be left to die on an impossible trip home. And we can't do that, Jaleesa. We need to go, we need to leave, we need to get help for all these people. Supplies will run out and Vita has no plan. She doesn't even want us here. I hesitate. She's not wrong, exactly. I just don't know what she expects me to do about it. I'm good with people, not with prison breaks. Hell, that's the opposite of my job, though I'm apparently not good at that either. Jaleesa, Victoria pleads. I'm not going to have my baby in the fucking forest. I grit my teeth. Fuck. What do I say to that? Should you really be having this conversation with us standing here? Sano asks blandly. We believe we made our position clear. Come on, Yelisaveta. Take us to the next closest threat. Sure, I agree, following her as she turns and leaves. Then I think a second time about what exactly Sano just said. And didn't say. We will not help. But will she stop us? I plug my nose, which is a bit of a crutch habit, but I really need the extra mental energy right now. If Altrix isn't trying to kill us with her line-of-sight death talent, our only real threats are Manus, Tommy, Ice Guy, I suppose, and the giant fuck-all zombie army. What must it be like, do you think? I muse out loud. To be forced to love and obey something. It sounds terrifying. It is, Sano says bluntly. Our love is probably artificial. I blink in surprise, staring her way. She has a distant look in her eyes and a slight frown. I hear her tongue run along the inside of her mouth, poking at her twisted teeth. We were made after Vita was, Sano continues. Excorio is right, to an extent. To love them, to see them happy. That is our entire reason to exist. And we do love Vita. But it is so frightening to wonder. Are we able to not love them? And if so, is our love less real? We don't know. But even after what Vita did to us, we want so desperately to forgive them. They do not deserve it, but we want to forgive them. I think it's okay to want to forgive people you love, I respond idly. But you should definitely assert yourself. Talk to her about what hurt you. Ask for an apology. Communicate. Vita isn't heartless, she's just... I don't know. She just doesn't get things sometimes. You should be specific and explicit with her. We know, Sano snaps. We raised that child. But now we're just... nothing to them. All our time together is gone. How can we possibly bridge the gap of what we mean to each other? This is why we will not help you. Why we could never help you. If we betray Vita, we will lose our chance to be family again. Yet her tone and expression don't match her words. The way she refuses to meet my eyes, all the little subtle ticks and twitches. I could be wrong, but I am going to take a chance here. I have to. How about you head to the port end of camp, then, and make sure we're safe, I say, because Skyhope is in the complete opposite direction. Most of the attacks have been coming from there, Sano agrees. The deeper forest is that way. Exactly, I confirm. I might send Manus and, Ice Guy to back you up as well. I turn to part ways, my heart beating fast. Vita isn't here right now and I doubt she'll want to stick around this close to Skyhope for long, so this is probably our best chance to escape. Thank you, Sano calls back to me. For all your help, and for all your questions. For my questions? Yeah, it was my pleasure, I answer honestly. I hope things work out with you and Vita. Sano cackles lightly. You really don't see us at cross purposes at all, do you? She asks. We truly hope you survive, Yelisaveta. Me too, I guess. I call back. Thanks again. I jog off, searching for Jeremiah. He's easy enough to find, the dude still smells like tea, even all the way out in the middle of nowhere. He and Manus are chatting, the latter of whom curtly nods to me as I approach. Inquisitor, he greets. It's kind of creepy how he sounds and acts pretty much exactly the same as he did in life. More threats? We're pretty much good for now, I think, I tell him. I think Altrix would like to talk to you, though. She's up port. He nods again and swiftly departs, leaving me with Jeremiah. I swallow my nervousness and just come out with it. Are you interested in returning to Skyhope? I ask. He raises his eyebrows. If I was, I would have done so by now. Unfortunately, I happen to be a convicted blasphemer, so I doubt I would be particularly welcome.
What if I argued for a pardon?
He clicks his tongue and I try very hard not to wince. He notices anyway.
Apologies,
Yelisaveta.
bad habit on my part.
Anyway, to answer your question,
I must still decline.
I'm afraid I struggle to trust the gratitude your superiors are capable of displaying.
Shit.
Well, there goes my first idea on how to get past the undead army. Can we run for it? I rack my memory, trying to figure out how far Skyhope is from here. On an entirely unrelated note, however, Jeremiah muses, I found myself impressed with Vita's ability to create a powerful horde, but her creativity is somewhat lacking, especially in terms of complicated command structure. The idea of using relatively intelligent Risen as a sort of commanding officer that the dregs follow and copy enables her to give much more complicated attack and defend commands as standing orders. However, her army is still only as intelligent as a series of animals. It doesn't seem to be doing anything more complicated than attacking any monsters that approach. It's unlikely to react to any humans leaving. Not unless they had some way to tell a prisoner apart from a non-prisoner.
I say.
I see. That's very interesting, Jeremiah.
Thank you.
It's a good thing I'm already in the habit of not reacting to things, because otherwise I'd be screaming as loudly on the outside as I am on the inside. I can't believe I'm doing this.
But I can't not do this.
I'm not going to just wait around for someone else to decide if she'll kill my comrades. It's my obligation to take that option off the table entirely.
There's a good chance we'll all die. I know that.
But while I may wake up helpless every morning, I also wake up a Templar. If they want to risk it, I'll help them.
They're the ones in the most danger.
The Mand.
Well,
the last person I feel the need to talk to. I spot and grab a few bugs on the way, since I know she'll like them.
Yelisaveta. Melissa calls happily, collapsing into a puddle and quickly flowing over to me before reforming her humanoid shape.
Hello. You've been so busy, we've barely talked. She giggles.
Yelisaveta.
She repeats.
It's such a big, fun name.
I'm so happy I can finally remember it. Hey, Melissa, I greet her back, holding out the bugs in my hands.
I brought you a little snack.
Ooh, yummy.
Thank you.
Slowly and carefully, she moves her hand over mine, pressing herself over the insects and sucking them up into her body without making contact with my skin. Good.
Melissa cheers,
her golden body glistening as the struggling bugs dissolve inside her. How are you, Yelisaveta?
I've been great.
This trip has been so fun. I'm so happy you brought Miss Vita to help me. I grimace. Yeah, for sure, I allow.
Though that's actually what I wanted to ask you about.
Can you keep a secret?
I used to be great at keeping secrets,
Melissa giggles.
Not as good now, but I'll try my best.
Oh wow, ouch, I say, but I laugh a little.
If she can,
why shouldn't I? Well, I'm actually sort of
leaving.
With a few people.
Very soon.
Her fake, silhouette eyes go wide with surprise.
Oh, no.
Really?
I'll miss you very much.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask.
I say.
Do you want to go with me?
To Skyhope?
As I'd feared, she doesn't react with excitement. But what I didn't expect is for her to shrink down and look scared. I still can't stay solid very well, she murmurs, starting to nervously and very literally wring her hands together. So I hurt people I touch. That's okay, I promise her. You're getting better at it, it won't be a problem forever. We'll find a way to keep you and everyone else safe until then. She takes a step back, no longer looking my way. Miss Vita says if Templars other than you find me, they'll make me stop eating again.
And I'll forget.
I freeze. I'm sure if we explain it to them it'll be fine. You eat bugs. That doesn't hurt anyone. Then why didn't they feed me any? She whispers. They had to know. Nah, I don't think they did.
I dismiss. There was nothing in your file about eating. I shut up.
There was nothing in Vita's file about her eating souls either, was there? Animavorism is recognized as a thing that exists, but I've never really heard much about it beyond that. And I worked with Melissa for barely a month before having my bright idea to just feed her live meals. What are the odds literally no one else tried that in well over a decade of incarceration? Is Miss Vita wrong? Melissa asks me. She sounds hopeful, like she wants it to not be true. I want it, too. There's no way it can be true, right? To keep a child contained in a state of dementia for that long. That can't be on purpose. That would be beyond fucked up. It would be against everything the church stands for. For fuck's sake, animavierism healed her soul, nothing else. This has to just be a mistake. But am I willing to risk Melissa's life over it? Would you like to stay here? I ask her. It's not an answer to her question, but she interprets it as one. Perhaps rightly so. Yes, she nods. Will I see you again? Count on it, I promise. Eat well and remember me. That beautiful, golden smile returns. Okay, she agrees. Swallowing all that panic, I find and relocate Sky, praying to the Watcher that the revenants don't just randomly wander back towards the prisoners. Ostensibly, Altrix is the one supposed to be guarding them, but in practice it has always been Vita's ability to keep track of everyone at once that keeps everybody in line. Either way, they should hopefully be used to assuming the prisoners are dealt with and not get overly suspicious for at least I don't know, 5 minutes? Then I collect some cloaks from the supplies that can cover up the prisoner collars. Not to fool any guards, but to hopefully fool the dumbass undead who likely don't have any other way to tell prisoners from non-prisoners. Every other part of the plan is just not a plan. I have to rely on none of the former prisoners wandering away from their separate camp and seeing us. I have to rely on none of the former staff wanting to rat us out as we very obviously start to leave. I have to rely on there not being some clever method to let dregs distinguish who is and isn't allowed to leave their circle. But as far as I know, we won't get another chance like this one. But maybe we will and I'm screwing up everything. Who knows? Okay, I have maybe an eighth of a plan, I say, grabbing Victoria and the other 2 Templars whose names I do not actually know. But we have an opening. Do you want to go now? They look at me in surprise. Wait, seriously? Victoria hisses. That was fast. We thought you weren't going to. I work fast, I shrug. But I'm serious, I have no idea if this will work. I just got the dangerous people away from the starboard side and I'm thinking maybe if you cover your collars the zombies will think you aren't prisoners. That's it. That's what I've got. But I figure we need to do this now, because there's no way to know when Vita will come back. The 3 of them look at each other, and they all nod. Fuck it, Victoria agrees. Let's go. We unfortunately don't have a way to remove the collars, but it's pretty easy to find something sharp to cut their other bindings with. Then we throw the cloaks on and, with held breath, wade through multiple deadly layers of undead monsters. The beasts come in all shapes and sizes, but each of them stands with utter stillness as we pick our way carefully around them, soon breaking free from their circle and passing out of sight. Why the fuck did that work? Victoria hisses. Risen are stupid, I shrug. Dregs are stupider. We automatically descend into tactical silence from there on out. We have some basic, if incredibly shitty weapons, mostly sticks and clubs, plus we're all unarmored. Any sort of fight would be catastrophic, which means every step we take is my responsibility. It's horribly nerve-wracking, but while I'm an awful fighter by Templar standards, I suppose I can admit I'm an above-average scout. Avoiding confrontation is pretty much my primary skill in all walks of life, when you think about it. I move us at as quick of a pace as I can without feeling like I'm guessing our path, and the farther we travel the easier it gets. We are, after all, approaching Skyhope, which means we're moving through the part of the forest that gets more hunter patrols than any other area by far. Dangerous monsters are relatively uncommon, and many of the ones still around have learned to fear humans. When we're about to approach the 1-hour mark of our journey, however, everything predictably goes wrong in the worst way possible. I hear it. The sound I've been afraid of from the start of this escape plan. A cacophony of pounding steps, approaching us from behind. The horde advances on us. Run, I order, and we all move, leaving our fate to the Watcher. All Templars have at least enhancer training, so we can move pretty fucking fast. But as I direct our course, desperately trying to avoid at least the biggest threats between us and our goal, the sound of the army behind us still manages to gain ground because they don't have to swerve after us. There are hundreds of them. They just have to run in a straight line towards Skyhope, and they'll get us on the way. They won't slow down or get tired, and any monster they encounter will just be added to their ranks. Because leading them at the front is their self-proclaimed queen, and I doubt she's happy. A foul scent carries itself on the wind, attacking my nose with murderous intent and forcing me to rely only on echolocation to chart the way forward. But what else can we do? Fire in my limbs and daggers in my lungs, we push forward with the speed of hunted prey. Because that's what we are, all we are, in the face of her fury. When my ears finally pick up the open and beautiful sound of the forest's edge, I know we're not close enough. We're going to have contact, I puff, and move us to a direct course. After all, it's run into a monster in front of us or be trampled by the army of them from behind. A furious and hungry pentapede stabs at us as we run past its nest, shrieking with murderous intent and giving Victoria a deep gash through her arm before we outpace it, but I can tell that still won't be enough. We're slowing down too quickly. Our bodies and souls can't handle this for much longer. So it's still over 100 yards to the edge of the forest when the army of undead overtakes us. First come the birds. Many of them were just normal, harmless animals in life, but they peck and tear at our skulls with unbridled hatred as larger, deadlier threats swoop down and demand our attention. I swat one out of the sky with my makeshift club, but by then the faster land monsters are biting at us from behind, cattles and arrowhounds and talon kings. One bites hard into my calf, twisting and trying to knock me to the ground, but Victoria and one of the other Templars smash its skull with well-placed strikes as I stumble. We're swinging left and right, beating away attackers as we continue to make ground towards Skyhope, but there are 4 of us and 400 of them. It's a surprise to us all when we actually burst out of the trees, our destination now visible in front of us. Screams erupt ahead as wide-eyed farm workers see an explosion of undead flow out from the forest behind us, shrieking for blood and death. The walls of Skyhope spot us immediately, the alarm sounding ahead to mobilize the army. Never has Skyhope felt like a more perfect name for our capital city than now, when we know reinforcements are coming. We'll soon be seeing soldiers pour out from the gate, coming to our rescue. Even as we get cut off, the horde overtaking and moving to encircle us, that knowledge along with the fear of death keeps us swinging. Or maybe it just made us foolish, because we didn't think to be afraid when the zombies stopped attacking us until after she emerged from their midst. Dressed in a black cloak with a blindfold over her eyes, I can still see her scowl furiously, glaring at us with open hatred. She's clearly the source of the pungent smell, as it's so overpoweringly horrid at this range I have no choice but to plug my nose or suffer an episode. She never smelled like this before, but I don't have time to think about what changed as we get locked into her kill range. She strokes our souls, and I'm filled with a frigid terror so all-consuming that I drop to my knees. "So," she says blandly, "you really went and did it, huh?" I swallow. "We're not dead. I still have work to do." "Can you of all people really blame us for staging a prison break?" I joke desperately. She tisks once, and it's almost a laugh. "A partial win, perhaps. How about I kick the shit out of you for 2 years while demanding you kill your family, and then you can get back to me on that," she sneers. "I can't believe you 4 got just far enough to be annoying." "I was trying to get my friends to safety," I plead. I know she can empathize with that, of all things. "Get everyone home, convince everyone to leave you alone as best I can, and make sure Victoria can have her baby somewhere safe. You know, the really funny thing is that I might have been about to let you do that," Vita sighs, glowering up at the army approaching from the distance behind us. Her own undead forces turn and, to my surprise, start to leave, flowing back into the forest. There's now nothing at our backs but freedom. Not that any of us are willing to risk running away from Vita. "Then just do that," I beg. "Let us go. You can show everyone in Skyhope, right now, that you're merciful. That you can be reasoned with, that you can be an ally." "What it would show them," Vita glowers, "is that when I make demands they don't really mean anything. That I can just be walked all over, as usual." She clenches her fists so hard she starts shaking, and I'm struck for a moment with the reminder of how tiny they are. Like a child's. "I was considering it." She snaps again. "I don't fucking know why. So at least there's one good thing that will come out of this. I don't have to make myself a liar." "What is she?" "Oh, no. No, no, no. Vita, wait." I shout, jumping to my feet. In an instant, she's on me. A shattering kick to my ribs and I'm knocked on my back. A second stomp lands where the first strike did, and I hold back a cry of pain as her boot holds me down. All three of my fellow Templars move to attack her immediately, an expertly coordinated strike from all sides. They were ready for this. Only you, Vita tells me again, and they die. I hold 3 Templar souls in my tendrils as their former bodies fall around me, taking in the feeling of Jaleesa's wide-eyed horror. It's a bit frustrating to look at. What did she expect? Part of me is fucking furious, but mostly I'm just tired. The whiplash of it, of finally seeing Penelope and my family again, of finally having a fucking home again. And yet now I'm watching the Vulcan army come at me. I want to scream, but I don't have the energy. Also annoying is the fact that I don't really have any beef with the Vulcan army. They've always left me alone and presumably focused on doing useful things like defending the walls, killing Hyvarrock soldiers when they used to drop, and kicking the shit out of any monsters that emerge from the forest. But if Penelope is right about how much the church has their claws in everything, and she's pretty much always right, the army probably has a beef with me. What else is fucking new? I sent my horde back into the forest as soon as I corralled the Templars I needed to catch, and hopefully that will make people a bit less aggressive in my general direction, but I know full well I'm already fucked. I've been seen. All of Skyhope is going to know about the necromancer in the forest by the end of the day. I could absolutely just turn around and leave, but if I do that I'm retreating, showing weakness. It'd be basically inviting them to come after me. So if I want the advantage I need to deal with this problem now, and I'm going to be as subtle as a hammer to the skull. But before that, I suppose I have the problem of these Templar souls to deal with. I'm tempted to turn Victoria into a revenant and make her life miserable for a while, but I'm pretty sure if I put her back into her body now she'll have to suffer through her own corpse leaking out a slow, excruciating miscarriage. I hate this woman, sure, but she doesn't fucking deserve that. So I eat her instead, and her 2 Templar friends for good measure. And I gotta say, holy shit, it feels good. I didn't really have much time to appreciate it back in the prison, but Templar souls are pretty damn big. The eye of my core splits open, teeth gnashing from within the pupil as I slurp down my former enemies. Eating just one is a fucking feast, and I flex my tendrils with delight as all 3 of them get absorbed into me, dissolved into raw power and added to my own. No, Jaleesa whispers. Vita, no. I glance down at where she's on her knees, staring in horror at my soul. I told you, the Mistwatcher does this, I grunt at her. It smashes people. It eats them. If that's an act of divinity, then stay on your knees and pray to me. If not, come on. I have an army to deal with. Predictably, she just gives me a stupid look rather than get up or pray, her soul a complete, chaotic mess. Uck. I guess I broke her, but I'm kind of struggling to give a damn right now. This is, after all, her fucking fault. Just like Penelope said, I handed her everything she needed to screw me on a silver platter and she took it. But unfortunately, I promised to let her live, and I stand by that, so with a sigh I grab her and start dragging her towards the incoming Vulcan army. Damn it, I don't know how to handle this. What would Penelope do in this situation? Besides make me smell like someone shat all over me with onion and capsaicin diarrhea to disguise her involvement, I mean. Probably something dramatic. Absent-mindedly, I glance around and spot a discarded scythe on the ground, no doubt left by one of the fleeing farm workers when my zombies emerged. I suppose I'd be better off with a weapon, huh? I pick it up, feeling the awkward heft and weight, glowering at the blunt far edge and the odd angle of the blade. This is actually kinda garbage, but it's better than nothing, I suppose. It's still a somewhat dangerous stick I can use to parry if needed. I consider snapping the scythe blade off and just keeping the stick, but the more I think about it the more I like keeping the scythe as is. Not because it's a useful polearm, but because it's symbolic. It's not a weapon, but a worker's tool. Something used by slaves to do highly dangerous jobs, risking their lives next to the forest just to fucking feed all the thankless shits that engorge themselves on the results. I have endless respect for reapers of grain in much the same way that I, as a hunter, worked as a reaper of souls. Plus, any who oppose me will be cut through as easily as wheat. I quickly spin the scythe once, getting a feel for it as I approach the army with Jaleesa in my other hand. It's not elegant, but it's heavy and sharp and I have strength to spare. It will do. Now then, let's see. The army itself doesn't really seem particularly dangerous. There are, maybe a couple hundred people total coming for me, right now. All of them feel weak compared to the Templars I've been dealing with lately, which makes sense. Templars often poach powerful people out of the army to fill their ranks. There are a few impressive people I sense, a couple even at the lower end of the high Templar power scale, but after engorging myself on a number of extremely powerful souls in the prison, I think I can still yank them. The question will be, can I get close? And the answer is, well, we'll see. If I'm lucky, this won't even be a fight. I don't expect to be lucky, but even I sometimes catch a break. At least I don't feel Galdra coming after me yet. The Valkan army is trained to fight with spears and shields, armored in thick quilted gambesons with chiton breastplates, folds, and greaves. Lighter and cheaper than Templar full plate, it still probably does the trick against normal weapons, but I don't really know and don't really need to know. I pull out an old friend, giving her a thankful squeeze as I lodge her inside my new scythe. Hey, Nora, I whisper to her, and her soul hums with love. I'm going to try to talk my way out of this one. But I'm counting on you if I fuck up again, okay? I feel Jaleesa hear our conversation, one I didn't really intend for her ears. She snaps back to herself and struggles to get to her feet as I continued to tug her along. I yank her upwards and let go when she catches her balance, curling a tentacle around her soul like a hook to guide her instead. She quickly learns to match my pace. Eventually, we stop and I let the army march their formation the rest of the way to me. I don't want to get too far from the forest in case I need to beat a hasty retreat, though I amusingly note some of the souls in the army seem to think I'm making a power move by forcing them to come to me. About 50 yards out, one of them finally has a danger sense long enough to feel me, and immediately advises an emergency halt. The officers listen, and the army stops. I grin. They aren't totally incompetent, at least. Identify yourself. Someone from the army calls at me, their voice amplified with chinemancy. Are you controlling the swarm of undead witnessed from the walls? I am, I call back, twisting my tendrils into a spell to amplify my voice as well. Shit, I didn't really think about what to say here, sorry for the scare. They're not quite sure what to make of that, which I guess is kind of a win. What did Penelope say? Putting people off balance is a good way to start challenging preconceptions. Necromancy is illegal on Valkan soil. The guy speaking for the army eventually shouts back. Oh, my bad. I respond. Is it okay if I just leave, then? Silence. Not even the local wildlife makes a peep, though that's increasingly normal around me and my zombie army. I mean it, I'll just go, I repeat. I have no qualms with Vulca or its army. You murdered 3 people, and you practice forbidden soul magic, the army guy states. We cannot, in good conscience, allow you to leave. Ah, well, that's going to be a problem for you then, I answer. Because you can't stop me from leaving. Inquisitor, if you would? I turn to Yelisaveta, who is giving me almost as mortified a look as she gave me after I murdered all her co-workers at the prospect of speaking publicly on my behalf. I extend my sound amplification spell over her anyway, which causes her to immediately cover her ears. I'm sure she can hear regardless. Inquisitor Yelisaveta, in your experience being my warden and subsequently my prisoner, what will happen if this detachment of the Valkan army fights me? She glances to the army, then back to me. Then she clears her throat and winces at the sound of it. I believe it would be a mistake, Jaleesa says, and I make sure her voice carries far, very far. Enough to make sure the army hears and more. I know the military protocol for necromancers ties your hands here, officers. But I urge you, do not treat this woman as a dangerous learned mage. Treat her as you would a sated dragon, and leave her be. Now I'm releasing her to you, I announce, to Jaleesa's immediate surprise. I'm not a fucking cognomancer and I haven't messed with her head. Do whatever you need to do to prove it, then listen to her advice. I push Jaleesa forward, since she seems a bit too confused to do it on her own. What, does she think I want to keep her after that stunt? Fuck no, I don't want to see her face again. Because I know exactly what's going to happen now, don't I? If they're smart they're going to send Galdra after me, and if they're dumb I'm about to make a whole lot of corpses. There's no fucking way they agree to this. They do, at least, allow Jaleesa to cross the distance between us, then immediately cuff and gag her in case she's not actually a prisoner, which I guess is pretty sensible considering I'm a known animancer. Still no Templar response either, which is weird. Galdra must be on the other side of the city, but what about all the other Templars that should be mobilizing at the report of a hostile necromancer? Not that I'm hostile, per se, but, you know. Anyway, it looks like their tactical officers are going to come after me now that the hostage is safe. Fucking called it. I sigh, not sure whether to be relieved or disappointed that they're only sending the elites and pulling back the normal troops. Should I just rush over to them and start killing people to make a point? On one hand, I don't want to because I don't want to kill anyone that's not a threat. On the other hand, I have a very shitty record with mercy and it might be time to just let loose on some bitches. But again, I'm just tired. I struggle to give much of a fuck as the 3 strongest tactical officers start moving to surround me. I raise an eyebrow at the closest one, since I'm pretty sure I recognize him. Remus? I drawl. Is that you? Wait, he mutters, finally placing my voice. Vita? Yep, I grunt. How have you been, boss? The other 2 tactical officers seem to get a bit nervous about this casual banter as they somewhat uselessly move in a wide circle around me. One of them starts creeping closer, which is going to be amusing, I guess. I have been well enough, I suppose, Remus answers hesitantly, the air growing thick with mana as he draws his sword. After Litio I was sentenced to serve as a slave in the army for 3 years, but it's mostly just the same work as before. I follow orders and kill monsters, so it's rather my forte. Cool. I see they gave you that sword back. I suppose I'm still considered its most skilled wielder, even after all these years, he shrugs. I acknowledge. You know, I was promised a reward for the whole mess at Lydia and I never fucking got it. So I think I'll take the sword. His face falls at that, immediately getting serious. I'm afraid I can't part with it. You were such a promising hunter, Vita. When and why did you turn to animancy? I was always a necromancer, I answer blandly. Just never by choice. I'm some kind of human experiment or watcherkin or some shit. I just had a talent I needed to use, and found the best place for it, protecting the city. And you know, I can still do that. I'm afraid that's not my call to make, my former teacher answers non-committally. But you wouldn't make the call even if you could, I say for him, and it's not a question. Well then, you can thank my daughter, because a promise to let her meet you again is the only reason you are going to walk away alive. He raises an eyebrow. You have a daughter? Adoption runs in the family, I say simply, and immediately get attacked by his allies. Well, for a generous interpretation of attacked, anyway. One of the tactical officers tries to cast something on me rather than at me, which is an important distinction because my magic resistance is absolutely bonkers. With what is now a pretty basic churning of mana in my body, I can obliterate any foreign spells that try to manifest inside me. That's got nothing on the other guy, though. He dashes forward to fight me in melee, so I just yoink him and step out of the way as his corpse face plants, skidding to a stop at my feet. She's excited to see you, I continue, so I hope we can meet up again sometime. Remus doesn't continue the banter, responding only with a slash to the air that sends a blade of destructive aeromancy my way. I've seen this before, a lifetime ago when we fought the Burrow Hounds. That attack isn't just a cutting technique, it exploded on impact and annihilated countless numbers of the little monsters. I'm not going to take my chances with it, I dodge to the side, letting the attack scream past me and explode into the forest. I grit my teeth as I feel a number of zombies shatter, despite being behind a few lines of trees. I don't have time to be frustrated, though, as before my first dodge is even finished another wind blade is flying at my head. Shit, I don't have time to dodge. I cover my face and the impact smashes into me, Nora's talent meeting the magical cutting edge with a furious roar. My revenant friend is stronger, but the projectile still detonates with a brutal amount of force, sending me flying through the air, an easy target for follow-ups. I thrust mana into my tendrils and rapidly weave the most basic spell I know, pumping it with range and power. A retina-scalding flash of light burns in front of Remus' face for a fraction of a second, forcing him on the defensive long enough for me to safely land and rush forward to make up lost ground. Nora's reinforcement talent protects me from cuts and stabs, but absorbing the shock of landing after being flung 30 feet through the air is all me. Normally, when people talk about the soul empowering the body, They apparently are talking about instinctive use of enhancer abilities. Something about flesh anima saturation that the body needs to adapt to in order to not injure itself. What they don't mean is having a strong soul physically alters the structure of your body to be superhuman, but that's what I thought they meant, and that's what's been happening to me. I'm apparently just a well of natural biomancy in the same way that I'm a well of natural necromancy. The problem is that I can't control any of it, so I get stupid shit like thigh eyes. But I guess it's not like I know what I'd want to use it for beyond being stronger in the first place. Another wind strike smashes me in the face, and I remember that combat probably isn't the best time to muse about this. The blade of air cuts me to the bone, gets blocked by my skull, and then literally explodes in my face, sending a layer of my skin, blood, and muscle showering in every direction as I'm blasted heels overhead through the air once more. Branches of soul snake up through my face to stymie the blood flow, holding together the side of my head that's now little more than a dripping, gore-covered skull. I'm down one eye, and unfortunately it's not the one in my temple. My depth perception is all sideways now. I detonate shockwaves of kinemancy behind me to try and arrest my momentum in the air, but I still slam into the ground and bounce before I manage to get to my feet, barely jumping out of the way of another attack. Ow, I grunt. Ever the professional, Remus doesn't respond or hesitate as he continues to send more slashes my way, though at this point I'm far enough away from him that they're relatively easy to dodge. Which isn't actually good, since I need to be close in order to do any real damage to him. I prep some of the projectile shards I used back in the prison and toss them his way. Lacking soul sight, he can't see them, but he does seem to feel them with his danger sense despite the blaring alarm that is me ringing in his metaphorical ears. He dodges blind, which surprisingly works, but still forces him to slow down his offense a little. I'll need a bit more than this, though. Fortunately, I've collected a new kind of projectile. Castles and Flyer Squad B, attack my target. Risen explode from the forest at my command, one group sleek and low to the ground while the other ascends high to attack from above. These undead might be fast enough to dodge an airstrike or two, but in the more likely event that they don't, they're still at least taking a few attacks in my place. Unfortunately, Remus just continues to focus on me while the other tactical officer, the one I had been ignoring because his talent doesn't work on me, swaps focus to slaughtering my undead, and he's good at it. The man is as dangerous as Aldrix. One look at his target and it just implodes, crushed into a tiny, wet ball of dead flesh in the blink of an eye. Both of my squads are going to be destroyed long before they reach Remus. With a resigned sigh, I start throwing more gnashing shards at my old teacher to distract him. Gnashing shards are the name I decided for the hungry little buggers, as I alter course towards Mr. Implody. It's much easier to avoid Remus projectiles when I'm not trying to run towards him, so I start making ground a lot faster. Tossing a bunch of shards his way helps as well, but I hate doing it. It feels like such a waste to toss bits of my own soul at him as nothing more than a distraction. I can't even retrieve them if they miss. They'll probably just keep flying until the Mistwatcher nabs them. Once I'm almost in range to attack Mr. Implody, though, Remus decides to start taking hits in order to keep me back. And I am entirely okay with that. Remus winces in pain as a pair of my gnashing shards latch onto his soul and start slowly trying to chew their way through him. We trade a few more projectiles this way, and I come out on top, barely getting close enough to grab and yank out the soul of Mr. Implody. Then, sensing opportunity, I quickly shard his soul and put it back in. If Remus doesn't put down his sword and surrender in the next 10 seconds, I order, making sure I'm loud enough for everyone to hear, kill everyone you see. Then my brand new revenant explodes, Remus having tossed a wind strike our way before I even finished talking. Man, what a dick. His ally's soul is irrevocably shattered, rapidly disintegrating into dust as Nora was apparently too busy protecting me to make the corpse invulnerable. Hey, so fun fact. I shout at him. The Mistwatcher can't collect the souls from destroyed revenants. I smirk as I feel that shake him, using the opening to get closer. Thanks to the shards I've lodged in his soul, he's starting to slow down, all that power slowly leaking away and facing the limits of the 60-year-old body it's trapped in. Soon, I'm in range to soul yoink, but I don't want to kill him, so I just grab and twist, trying to debilitate from raw pain. It's not as effective as it sometimes is, but I manage to slip into a range where he can't use that damn wind blast without catching himself in the explosion. His enchanted sword has more than one trick to it, though. A sharpness enchantment. An aerodynamics enchantment. A momentum enchantment. Remus' blade is, to my understanding, a Vulcan heirloom wrought from the very meteor that created Skyhope Crater. It was designed explicitly to kill monsters of legend, beasts with scales harder than steel and magic beyond mortal capacity. When the blade strikes, it strikes with the weight of a nation behind it, carving through whatever stands in its way. Unless, of course, that thing is Nora. My deceased friend laughs in a melody only I can hear, pride flaring as I use her to parry a legendary royal armament. I redirect as much of the force of the blow as I can, but still stagger under the impact enough for Remus to follow up. He's fucking fast, still faster than me after all this time. I can follow his movements, but my body still can't keep up. My soul can. Tendrils move to intercept the blade, and though they cannot touch it, they can pour my mana into the depths of the steel. It happily accepts me, yanking me down into it like I'm falling from a cliff. The Watcher mana inside fights and obliterates me, but I sacrifice more of my essence to temporarily overpower it, the blade singing blue for a beautiful moment. I feel it trying to pull me through its engraved pathways, twist me into spells and use me to bring its carved will onto the world, but I resist. So, for a crucial moment, its enchantments are gone. It's just a lump of metal. Remus is startled as, before impact, his sword suddenly feels heavier yet swings weaker. His attack catches me on the exposed cheekbone of my face, still a heavy blow but barely chipping bone. While he is still surprised, I smash Nora's handle through his helmet. The fight is over quickly after that. I knock him to the ground and wrest the blade from his hands, drooling internally over the feast. He tries to keep striking at me, punching and kicking to the limited extent he can manage it from the ground, but it's mostly just annoying. I'm going to break your limbs now, I inform him, and then I start stomping. He finally stops moving after I remove the option. You're annoyingly persistent, I grumble, pulling the gnashing shards from his soul to reabsorb them. They're quite delicious, having bloated themselves on bits of Remus. You don't stop attacking a monster until the end, he chokes out. Didn't I teach you that? I snort. Yet what a shitty mentor you turned out to be, I complain. You just kicked my ass around for a few weeks, needed to get yourself saved, and then tried and failed to kill me. I should have stuck to being a thief, at least then I could have hung out more with Lynn. Well, now that the Takovs are taken care of, the small group sent out to deal with me is retreating back to the walls while reinforcements muster. Including, I now notice, Galdra and other Templars. That's my cue to leave, I guess, but I need to decide what to do with this sword. On one hand, I want to keep it because it's powerful as fuck and generally really cool. It is a potent ranged attack that I could conceivably use to supplement my distance weakness, assuming I actually learn how to use it well. I don't have any two-handed sword training at all, but I could certainly get some. On the other hand, though, this is a national treasure. If I just run off with it, people are absolutely going to come after me to get it back. So instead, perhaps I can be a bit more dramatic. I plant Nora into the ground, then move her out of the scythe and into one of my gloves so I can safely grip the blade. Pouring my mana back into its depths, I remove its enchantments so they don't cause any chaos effects while I flex my limbs and start to bend the blade. It actually bends a lot more than I expected. Chitin blades tend to snap long before they get the kind of bend I'm putting in this thing. Still, it's eventually too much for the poor sword, and Remus' anguish at watching its destruction is almost as loud as the metallic snap as I break it in half. I'm leaving, I announce, projecting the sound as loud as I'm able. I don't want to fight. So listen to wisdom and just let sleeping dragons lie. I turn away, biting off a chunk of the sword so my soul can lap it up. Come after me again, I promise, and it swore.